Going live. All right, it says I'm live. That's literally awful. Okay, that's still really bad. I don't know how to get it out of this site, but I don't know. This looks a little bit better. It's on my desk. It's much simpler. I'm streaming on YouTube. And usually, I will stream on Twitch. So this is the first time. Katie, I love you. I'm gonna let you go. Bye. All right, so this chapter is titled The Verdict. I only have time to stream one chapter, but we'll proceed anyway. Laden with my huge backpack, I followed the warden down the main walkway, out the heavily guarded main gate, and into a spacious office. To my surprise, I did not see any cadres from the number 2 brickyard there. That did not bode well, since it was standard practice for correctional institutions to return freed prisoners to their original work units. My heart sank as I realized that I might not be released. Sheriff Khang, my interrogator, and a young, unfamiliar cadre were waiting for me in armchairs. They approached me as I came in, and the young cadre announced that I was going to receive lenient treatment thanks to the relatively clean confession I had made. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that maybe I was going to be released after all. Then he took out a printed document and launched it into a rapid-fire reading. As I stood there, dazed in the glare of the lamps, my mind kept wandering at critical moments, and I was unable to absorb most of what he said. When he had finished, he handed the document to me in a triplicate and told me to sign it. I skimmed it and deduced that what he had meant by lenient treatment was 3 years in the labor camp. The nature of the criminal charges and the description of the facts, quote unquote, of the case rankled me. Quote, I can't sign this. Quote, it's full of mistakes. So you're refusing to sign, are you? He replied darkly. If you want a battle of wills, let's have one tonight. We have all the time in the world, but you'll end up in worse off for it. I held my ground. Don't take this signature business too seriously, though. He admonished me. The prisoner's signature is just a formality. The verdict takes effect whether you sign or not. But I'm warning you, if you keep making trouble, you'll be accused of denying the charges and obstructing justice, and you'll get slapped with a longer sentence. I knew I was defeated. I signed the verdict, took my copy, and followed the warden to the holding cell for convicted criminals, which was in the second row of cells on the east side of the building. At that moment, I realized how short-sighted I had been to leave my mattress behind for my cellmates. Without it, I would have to sleep on a bare wooden plank tonight, and every night for the foreseeable future. I told the warden that I had forgotten the mattress, and he sent one of my cellmates to retrieve it for me. I wondered what 14 and the others were saying about me now. Were they still fantasizing about me enjoying a treat at the China Cafe? This new cell was my only cafe, quote unquote, and the printed verdict was my treat, quote unquote. A treat so bitter that it took me all night to swallow and digest it. For the first time in my life, I lay sleepless until morning. In a stupor, I stared at the dusty light bulb which shone all night long until my eyes burned and my neck ached. Then I took out the verdict and studied it, milking it for every shred of information I could find. Each word stung like a pinprick to my scalp. I had earnestly quoted Chairman Mao in the petition for my redress that I had written in Beijing, believed that apt quotes from Mao, whose words were regarded as supreme directives, would win my case for me. But now, in an ironic twist, the Military Control Commission of Xi'an Security Bureau was invoking Mao as its authority, and a theoretical underpinning for my sentence, following the obligatory format of the Times. The verdict opened with a quotation from his little red book. The section's titled Supreme Directive. Our state is a people's democratic dictatorship, led by the working class and based on the worker-peasant alliance. What is this dictatorship for? Its first function is to suppress the reactionary classes and elements in those exploiters in our country who resist the socialist revolution. Or in other words, to resolve the internal contradiction between ourselves and the enemy. And then it's back to him Narrating. The verdict itself was headed, Decisions regarding the labor re-education of the criminal reactionary element Khang Guo. The charge that I was a criminal reactionary element, which harked back to Mao's quote, was an escalation. Shaanxi Normal University had expelled me as a reactionary student, preserving my status as one of the people, quote unquote. Despite my alleged thought crimes, now, however, I was being categorized as an enemy of the people. According to Mao's framework, I read on. The first paragraph summarized my reactionary history and reactionary family background. Khang Guo, male, 24 years of age, Huang Village, Huaqing Commune, Lintong County, Shanxi Province, Han nationality, landlord class background, a student, college dropout, current resident of 80 Kaitong Lane, Xi'an, Grandfather Kang Ji Yao, a criminal landlord element. Father Kang Shen Cheng, a criminal. One sentence to labor reform. Later released and employed as the municipal waterworks. Now in custody of the masses. The criminal Kang Guo attended Kai Tong Lane Elementary School and number 8 and number 2 middle school from September 1951 to July 1963, and the China Department of the Shanxi Normal University from September 1963 until his expulsion on December 25th, 1964. For reactionary thought crimes in March 1965, he became a laborer at Jianan Construction Materials of Xi'an, in detention since September 19th, 1968. So that was a big ramble, but that was just kind of, as you can tell by me rambling out so quickly, that was just like a list of his specifics. I believe that one should be held accountable for one's own crimes, which have nothing to do with one's family. But the communists believe in visiting the sins of the father on their children in the name of the class struggle, and that reactionary traits are inherited. There was a popular saying during the Cultural Revolution: if the father is a reactionary, the son is a bad egg. By starting off with my reactionary pedigree, my verdict implied that father's and grandfather's criminal status somehow justified my punishment. However, the facts in the verdict were grossly distorted. Shortly after 1949, father's work unit had committed him briefly to a detoxification facility to cure him of his opium habit, but he had never been convicted of a crime asserting that he was a criminal. Was an intentional smear to create the illusion that grandfather and I, 3 generations of reactionaries, represented what Mao regarded as a criminal reactionary class, which the state dictatorship had to suppress. The second paragraph described my crimes as such. Investigations have revealed that after being expelled from college and becoming a resettled worker at the construction materials plant, the criminal Kang Guo continued to behave as a die-hard reactionary. He took advantage of the Cultural Revolution to try to reverse the correct verdict against him. Worst of all, on May 12th, 1967, using the pseudonym Kang Guo and the false return address of Xi'an Foreign Language Institute, he sent a letter to the normal Moscow University. It's not normal, it's just the Moscow University Library in the revisionist Soviet Union. He was seeking a copy of the counter-revolutionary novel Dr. Zhivago by the traitor Pasternak, which had been denounced in People's Daily the day before. The said criminal also took the opportunity to attack China's criticism of this reactionary novel and to plot collusion with the enemy in cultural revolutionary activities. In accordance with directive regulations for increasing public security in the Cultural Revolution, it is hereby decided that he shall spend 3 years in labor re-education for reactionary thought crimes and scheming to collude with the enemy. His term, which began on September 19th, 1968, will be terminated on September 18th, 1971. Military Control Commission of the Xi'an Security Bureau, November 1918, 1916, 1968. I'm sorry, November 16th, 1968. It's just the date on the document. It says, I was being sentenced to 3 years in the labor camp merely because I had written to the Moscow University Library to borrow a novel. But the verdict delved into my past and twisted the facts to make it seem as if this act had been an outgrowth of my ingrained reactionary stance rather than simply an isolated whim. It occurred to me that my trip to Beijing might have led to my predicament, my current predicament. Maybe the petition I had submitted to the Cultural Revolution leadership group had found its way back to the brickyard and provoked the authorities into having me apprehended. I could see from the detailed description of my letter that the police had my original letter to Moscow, and I wondered how they had gotten it. Had they learned about it from my confession, or had they known beforehand? I had written it in Russian, thinking myself clever, had indeed used the CN Foreign Language Institute as the return address on the envelope. Although I had given my real address on the letter inside, the accusation that I had used a pseudonym was false. However, I had signed my name in Russian, which the Chinese censors had retranslated back into Chinese as Khang. I decided, one second. All right, I'm just going to read this last chapter, the rest of this chapter, and be done. Chinese censored has retranslated it back into Chinese as Khang. I decided that they must have intercepted the letter before my arrest. As I pursued this line of thought, it finally dawned on me that the police probably censored all letters to and from foreign countries. What a fool I had been! I had never even dreamed that my letter would be plucked from the mailbox before it was sent out, inspected by the police, and easily traced back to me. But why had they waited more than a year to prosecute me? It made no sense to charge me with collusion with the enemy. Although Sino-Soviet relations had deteriorated to the point where enemy was an accurate designation, I certainly had not colluded with the Soviets. The charge implied that I had exchanged sensitive information with them, threatening China's national security. After all, the release of Dr. Zhivago had been announced in the People's Daily and was hardly a state secret. The release. Wait, let me read that. The release of the error of my ways was finally becoming clear to me. The first time around, I had been expelled from college and sent to the brickyard for writing the letter to Li Jimin. Now I had been branded a criminal reactionary element and sentenced to 3 years in the camps again because of a letter I lay on my bunk, overcome with wave after wave of remorse. My heart ached as my parents' repeated admonitions echoed in my ears. Quote, "You got into this mess by studying foreign languages to become a translator." I said to myself, facing the wall, "None of this would have happened if you hadn't known Russian." I leaped up, grabbed the English and Russian translations of quotations from Mao beside my bunk, and stuffed them into my backpack. Fear of being prosecuted for desecrating Mao's works was the only thing that stopped me from tearing them into shreds and pitching them into the urinal. I'll never read another foreign book or study a foreign language again, for as long as I live, I vowed. Wow. Okay. Thank you for watching. It looks like kind of a transformative chapter in this guy's life. So kind of interesting. I'll try to stream tomorrow. Bye-bye. I fucking didn't. All right, where was I?